Everybody, Tim Springer, Spartan Basketball, San Antonio's #1 skill development program, back at the University of Texas at San Antonio, better known as UTSA, and another great lesson for you today. Before we start, let's start with a quote. Today's quote actually comes from a great coach, Vince Lombardi. And Vince Lombardi said, "The quality of a person's life is in direct proportion to that person's commitment to excellence, regardless of their chosen field of endeavor." And I cannot stress how true that is. And that's why you find me here, and hopefully that's why you find yourself watching these videos. You have a commitment to excellence, a commitment to succeed and grow, and down the long run, or maybe even immediately, you're going to see a quality of life improve, or your quality of life improve, excuse me. So today we're talking about teaching progression. I think this is huge. A lot of times you see coaches go in and they'll give young players things that they need to be broken down, or they maybe need to be simplified, or you need to wait until we've got a certain kind of understanding of the game or a level of fundamentals underneath us first. So teaching progression is huge. So let's kind of get into that. All right. The first thing is, going into teaching progression, especially being a skill development coach as well as a team coach, you've got to articulate what is that progression. From 5 years old all the way through maybe even a college athlete or whatever it is you're teaching, high school, varsity, JV, you need to have a progression plan stated, and written down as well. 6th grade, they should know how to do such and such. 8th grade, they should know how to, 9th grade, they know how to read pick and roll, read how it's defended. Things like that. So you've got to have a plan and know. You can't just kind of assume and guess. And a lot of it will be trial and error. Some of it you can study and find, what motor skills develop in kids at certain ages. But a lot of it's going to be trial and error. I know it took me a long time before I even started writing curriculum plans like that or articulation plans, because I had to find out what could they handle. So that's something to really keep in mind. You never, ever, ever, ever want to assume that a player or an athlete already has that skill. I don't care what age they are. I don't care how athletic they are. You want to assume they do not have it, because a lot of times we make that assumption and it's not true. Then we have to go back and waste a lot of time recovering things when we could have just started from the beginning, got through that, and then been where we were. And as well as that, just because you've taught them, and just because they've heard it, you can't assume that they have habituated it. You've got to continuously review and cover what you've already gone through, and then as well as drills. You've got to constantly go through drills. I mean, if this wasn't the case, we learned to shoot one time and never practice shooting again, and we all know that's not true in basketball. One thing to do with that, though, is work on the same skill, but put different drills in it. Players, and especially kids in particular, they get very stagnant with the same things. They need new, they need fresh. And all humans do, really. So make sure you're giving the same skills in different drills, okay? We always want to progress simple to complex, which is kind of what we already talked about. Always emphasize technique. Technique is so overlooked by players when they're learning. If you can teach a player to pay attention to how their body moves, how they're setting up within the play, the structure of the environment or the drill. If you can teach them to focus on that and pay attention to that, you're going to get a lot further with things, because otherwise they're going to run through with just their habits. And usually if we're teaching them something new, they don't have any good habits, or they have a lot of bad old habits. And those will subconsciously come to the forefront if they're not consciously paying attention to the new technique. All right? And try to be innovative. Find new ways to teach. One thing I'm a big fan of is tennis balls. I use tennis balls to teach so many different things in basketball. We did a drill yesterday in practice where the kids had to dribble, grab the tennis ball, drive past the defender, and tag the tennis ball on their hip. Why? Because it's teaching them to clip the hip. And if they know consciously to tag that hip every time they go by, okay, then it starts building a habit. Then I can teach them why we're doing that, and everything starts to fold out. Okay? Remember that athletes mature differently, socially, physically, and emotionally. You have to be very in tune to these things. You can't just assume that everybody learns the same. Everybody's going through the same things in life. or everything's good, people are going to go through things, and you need to be in tune as a coach as to what your players are going through, because it could retard growth or development severely if it's not attended to, especially if it goes on for a long period of time. Motivation. We've talked about it before. You as a coach, you're a motivator. It is up to you to lead it. Now, one thing I personally believe in is that, I give motivation. One thing I do is I give quotes. We learn to set goals. But I believe in teaching self-motivation. The most successful people in life are the self-motivated people. So if you can teach a player to be self-motivated and understand how to pour his own gasoline on that fire, then you're gonna get a lot further with that motivation. Different ways to motivate. Competition. Like I said, the quotes, teaching them to set goals. Sometimes getting out of your normal everyday routine. Let them have fun for a little bit and then say, okay, let's come back and teach. So a lot of different things you can do there. So teaching progression is huge. You've got to have a plan. You've got to work your plan. Remember, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So that's the lesson for today. Take care. God bless.